Hello students, and welcome to Biology 100, the hybrid flipped version of the course. My name is Greg Doheny, that's me there in the picture, and I will be your instructor for the lecture section of the course. This course has a lecture section, which I'm teaching you, and a separate laboratory section. All of you that are in this class will not be assigned to the same laboratory, so you will be assigned to another lab, and it will probably either be either Manjeet Kumari or Jamie Q, who will be your lab instructor. So during the first week of class, make sure that you know which lab you are assigned to, which lab period, and go to the first lab and go to the lab web page and download the laboratory manual. And just make sure that you are in contact with your lab instructor as well. So, regarding the lecture part of the course, which is what I'm responsible for teaching you, I would advise that you log on to the computer or your phone, log on to your student web portal, and enter into your web portal page. And on the web portal page, you will see on the student web page, you will see that you have a list. All of your courses are listed, and most of your courses will have a web page, and that web page is organized by a computer program called the Moodle program. So you'll often hear me referring to the Moodle web page for this course or to the Moodle page for this course, and that's what I'm referring to. The fact that there is a web page for this course, just as there is a web page for most of the other Columbia College courses. That web page has been organized through a program called Moodle. Moodle is a program that teachers use to organize classroom and teaching resources onto a single page that makes it accessible to the students. So there is a web page for this course, for the lecture section of this course, and I would advise you to log on to it as soon as possible. So log into your student portal and go to the web page. And the web page, like the course, is organized according to a 13-week schedule. So most courses at Columbia College are organized into a 13-week schedule where we have 13 weeks of teaching, 13 weeks of instruction, followed by 1 week of final exams. And so it's more important to know what week you are in than it actually is to know what the exact date is, because the week, if you know which week that we're in, then you can look at the course web page and see a list of exactly what you're supposed to be doing that particular week. So in the first day of class obviously occurs in week 1, and then the following week is week 2 and 3 and so on. So if you go to the web page, you will see that it is organized according to weeks, and there will be a list of what you're supposed to do every week on that web page. If you want to talk to me for advice out of class, or you have something you're confused about, feel free to come to my office hours. I have in-person office hours on campus on Monday from 11 to 12, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Right before our class, actually, and also on Thursday from 1 o'clock until 2 o'clock on Thursday as well. Those are my in-person office hours. My office is in room 510 on the main campus. My email address is here. If you want to set up an appointment, my email address is located here. You can contact me through that address, and you also have the option of talking to me over the internet. I have online office hours on Friday from 3 o'clock until 4 o'clock. In order to contact me online, you have to download another program, which is called the Microsoft Teams program. And if you get to the student website for the Biology 100 course, you'll see that there's a link there that gives you some information on how to download the Microsoft Teams program. And so we talk to each other through Microsoft Teams. All right, so if you're here watching this video, you probably know how to get into the student web portal and get onto the student profile, onto your student profile. So you log into you go to the Columbia College website, which looks like this. You log into the Columbia College website. It will give you a list on your MySys or your Moodle page. It will give you a list of all the courses that you're registered in, one of which, of course, is Biology 110. So you simply click on the Biology 110, or sorry, one of which is Biology 100. So you click on the Biology 100 website, and that will take you to a page that will take you to this page, which has a picture of a very famous picture by Leonardo da Vinci, showing the dimensions of the human body. The Renaissance scientist and artist Leonardo da Vinci did this, and so this is what you will see at the top of the web page for the course, and then all you have to do is start scrolling downwards. Start scrolling downwards, and you'll see that the entire web page lists everything that you need to do from week 1 through week 13. And you'll see that each list, for example, list or week 4, which is shown here, we would be studying the skeletal system, the skeleton, or the bones, in other words. And you notice that it links you to some lectures, right? And this is the what's known as a flipped version of a course. This is the Biology 100 hybrid flipped version of the course, where for a normal course, you would normally go to lectures once a week or twice a week when it's convenient to me, the teacher, and then I would lecture and you would take notes, and then if we have time left, we would do some class exercises and some other things. In a flipped classroom, we do the opposite of that. We allow you to watch pre-recorded videos of the lectures at a time when it's convenient to you. And then we spend less, as a result of that, we don't have to spend as much time in class, but the time that we spend in class, we spend a lot more of it doing exercises and evaluations and tests and things of that nature that assist the learning process. Also discussions, and a few compressed lectures. For instance, each week in the Monday lecture, I will give you a brief review of what you learned the previous week and what you're supposed to learn in the coming week. I give you a preview of what you're supposed to learn in the coming week. We'll have a very short discussion about some of the issues that you heard about in the videos, in the lectures, and then we do a lot of testing. Every week you will get a test on the previous material that you learned the previous week, and also on any material you may have learned in previous weeks before that one. So I will talk about that in a minute, but nevertheless, the point is that in the flipped version of the classroom, you do not actually have to go to a lecture. You watch the lecture online in your own time. The lectures, as you'll see, the lectures are pre-recorded and they're stored on the Moodle, on the YouTube website. And the advantage of storing the lectures on YouTube is that you have the option of turning on closed captioning or turning on the transcript, which simultaneously translates the words that are being heard into words that are written. So you can actually, in addition to hearing me give a lecture, you can also read the words. Also, another advantage to having the lectures online is that you can rewind it. You can watch it as many times as you want, and you can rewind a part that you can go back and listen again to a part that you didn't quite understand. And you can also turn on the transcript so that you can, or the closed captions, so that you can read the words that I'm speaking instead of hearing them, or in addition to hearing them. I often speak too fast, which is a bad habit that I have. And so if I'm speaking too fast, you can watch the video, any parts of the video or the entire video again, or you can read. You can simply read what I'm talking about. So you can see that in the weekly discussion, in the weekly section for week four, for instance, we're going to be discussing the skeletal system, and then the lectures are here. So you just click on these links. There is also a textbook for the course. There's a link to the textbook. It's a free textbook which is available online, so you do not have to buy the textbook. There's a link to it on the course web page. So just go to the course web page and either download the textbook as a PDF file, a portable document file, or read it online, so you don't have to download anything. Now, about reading it, I do not require that you read the textbook. The textbook is actually, it's a good source of information, but it's in more detail than you need for this course. So in fact, what we're going to do in this course, you can pass this course and get a good mark simply by discussing, only by learning the things that I talk about in the lectures. So it's not actually necessary for you to read the textbook, but we are giving you a textbook that contains all the information you need. Plus, in addition, it contains a lot more detail than you actually need. So that's the idea behind the textbook. It's there as a suggestion, but not as a requirement. So you are not required to read the textbook. It is not mandatory. However, there is a section of vocabulary that I'm assigning to you for each week. And vocabulary, of course, is the meaning of words. So a lot of biology is just learning words that describe biological phenomena. And so the way to learn those words is by learning the vocabulary. Now, if you look in the textbook, you'll notice that at the end of each chapter there is a vocabulary section. And also you'll see that there's a document on the web page that lists the vocabulary that I assign to you to learn every week. So if I assign a bunch of words to you that you're supposed to learn the definitions of these words, there are two ways you can do that. One is, well, I guess there's three ways. One is you could Google it. You could do a Google search on the internet. Now, the problem with Googling and other internet search engines, the problem with that is that think about this. In the days when I was a student, the problem was where would you get information? If you're a student who's trying to find out about something, where would you get information? And when I was your age, the only place that you could get information was in the library. So you had to go to the library and read books. Getting information was a problem when I was a student. Today, with the internet, after 40 years of having access to the internet, the problem is not getting information. There's lots of it. It's all over the place. You have copious amounts of information that you can get anytime you want. The problem is that a lot of it is not accurate. So you have no way of guaranteeing that what you look up on the internet is actually accurate information. I could give you some horror stories about that. For instance, one year I had to teach, for a few years I had to teach Biology 110 at Columbia College. Biology 110 is a plant biology course. I am not an expert on plants. I'm not a botanist, but I had to teach the course anyway. And at one point for the course, I wrote some little notes for the students. And I'm not an expert in plants, but I wrote some notes in the plant biology section of Biology 110, and I gave them to the students as a PDF. And I guess at some point, one or more of the students must have put it somewhere on some kind of a repository on the internet. And then, so to this day, you can Google and you can find these notes that I wrote for the students online, and I can tell you that I can guarantee to you that they were not written by an expert in plant biology. They were written by me, and I'm not an expert in plant biology. So there's a lot of stuff on the internet that is written or composed by amateurs or people who are just downright wrong, or people who don't know what they're talking about. So one of the important skills that you have to have is to be able to extract information from an authoritative textbook. So textbooks are written by different people. Some of them are experts and some of them are not. So you need to know where to find textbooks that are written by experts. And then you need to be able to find information from those books. And so in this class I'm assigning you a textbook. I'm not requiring that you read it, but I am requiring that you learn the meaning of words that I assign you every week from that textbook. And there are two ways that you can find the meaning of those words. One is you can either read the chapter that those words are defined in. That would take you a long time. If you're pressed for time, another way to do it is simply to look in the back of the textbook. At the end of the textbook, there's a section called a glossary, and the glossary explains the vocabulary, right? So you can easily and quickly look up the meaning of all the words in the vocabulary in the glossary of the textbook, and that's what I would advise you to do. But you can also, if you look up the meaning of these words in the glossary, it will also help you to understand the lectures that we're talking about. It'll help you to discuss the material in the lectures. So every week there is a section that describes what you're supposed to be doing that contains links to the lectures, links to the videos of the lectures. The lectures are actually like this one that you're watching right now. It is called a voiceover PowerPoint presentation, meaning I show Microsoft PowerPoint slides and I talk over them. So that's called voiceover PowerPoint. So the lectures that you're assigned to are voiceover PowerPoint presentations. You can watch and listen to the lecture, and if you want, you have the option of reviewing the slides as well. So there is a link to the slides that you can click on as well if you just want to read the slides instead of listening to me talk over the slides. And then there is a link to a test that you have to write. We're going to write those tests in class. And then on the web page there is also a student question forum, right? So you'll see where that is when you get to the web page, that there's a question forum where you can post a question and I will try to answer it in public. So the question that you ask will be in public and the answer that I give you will be in public as well. So those are the things that you'll find for every week. And in addition to that, we'll have other forms of tests like a midterm test and a midterm test and a final exam, right? So as you know, the blue texts are actually hot links to various resources for the course. So when you get to look at the web page, you'll see that there are links to videos, to documents, and so forth. If you click on one of the links for the lecture will open up on YouTube. And you have the option of either turning on the transcript, which will be visible to the right, or if your computer doesn't do that for you, you do have the option by clicking here, this little cog wheel, and it will give you the option of no, I'm sorry, it's not that one, it's this one. It's the CC, which stands for closed caption, right? So if you click on the closed caption button, it will turn on captions. So as I'm lecturing, you will actually be able to read subtitles of the words that I'm speaking. So that's how you will get most of your information for the lecture section of the course. You'll get most of it from the lectures, and the lectures are available on YouTube, and the links to those lectures are on the web page. So you have the option of turning on the transcript or the closed captioning, the subtitles. Okay, so as I said, for a regular class, you go to lectures when it's convenient for the teacher, not for the student, and then you take notes, and then the speed at which you can go through the course material is determined by the fact that you only have access to 1 or 2 lectures a week, whereas in a flipped class, you have the option of watching videos, and you spend less time in class, and the time that we spend in class is used for more useful things, and then you can watch the videos when it's convenient for you, when you have spare time. You don't have to reorganize as much of your schedule around attending the lectures if the lectures are available online instead. So I am, as it says here, one of the activities that I do in my lectures, in my lecture section, is I'm an advocate of the frequent low-stakes testing model of learning, which means that I'm going to give you a lot of tests on the material which are not worth very much. So you're going to write a lot of tests, each of which is not worth a lot, each of which is not worth that much. And what this does is it allows you, a lot of people when they study things, they're fairly good at the memorization, they're good at trying to memorize things, but you will forget things if you don't use the information or if you don't recall the information frequently. So these frequent testing models, the frequent testing system it's actually been researched by learning psychologists to be effective. It gives you a chance to retrieve the information that you've memorized many times. And so if you put information into your memory and then take it out, put it in, take it out, put it in, take it out, you will establish a permanent memory that way. On the other hand, if you do what other classes do, which is just to have a midterm and a final and that's it, probably you'll forget the information as soon as the class is over. I remember as a student I did, and there's some sad statistics out there that demonstrate that if most students forget about 50% of the information that they learned 1 month after the course is over, which means that the course was kind of a waste of your time, wasn't it? If you don't actually remember any of the stuff that you learned, or if you forget half the stuff that you learned, If you forget half the stuff that you learned, then the course was kind of a waste of your time, wasn't it? So if you're going to be stuck doing this course, you may as well at least get something out of it that you retain for the rest of your life. So a better way to do a good way to make sure that you memorize and learn the information that we're talking about here for a long time into the future is to use a frequent test model, it's known as the study test model. So in the lecture sections every Monday in the lecture section of the course, we will, in addition to having a discussion and maybe doing some exercises, we will also do a lot of testing. So there will be a test every week. I'll explain to you what the different tests are, but basically I will give you every Monday I'll give you two different types of tests, and these tests are on all the material that we've discussed before the test. And so these tests, I will give you one test which is composed of short answer questions and short essay questions. And then when you're finished that test, you give it to me, and then I give you another test and a computer card, which is a multiple choice test. So every week you'll have two different tests. One of them is a short answer, short essay test, and the other one is a multiple choice test, an MCQ test. And so those two together, every week the short answer test is worth 1% of your grade, and the multiple choice test is worth 1% of your grade. I'm going to give you 10 short answer tests and 10 multiple choice tests during the semester, but I'm only going to count 8 of the short answer tests, and I'm only going to count 7 of the multiple choice tests, namely your highest 7 or your highest 8. So if you miss one of the tests, don't panic about it. There's no need to panic, because of the 10 tests, of the 10 short answer tests that I'm going to give you, I'm only going to count the highest 8 marks anyway. So you can afford, theoretically, you could afford to miss 2, and if you do very well on the remaining 8, you'd still do very well in the course. And then the same thing applies for the multiple choice test. I'm going to give you 10 of those, but I'm only going to count the highest 7 of them. And then in addition to that, we're going to have a midterm and a final exam, and that will account for your mark for the 75% of your mark for this course that comes from the lecture. Okay, so each week what you will have to do is the following. Each week you'll watch 1 or 2 assigned lectures on video. This is mandatory. Mandatory means you have to do it. And if you want, you can review the slides. You can just look at the slide. You can take another look at the slides without having to listen to the whole lecture again. So the slides are posted on the website as well. Reviewing the slides is optional, meaning that's up to you. It's not required. In addition, I've assigned a chapter to read for every lecture, but I don't recommend you read the chapter. You'll be able to do very well in the course just by trying to learn the information from the lectures. But it is there. The textbook is there for anyone who wants to get additional detail. The only problem, of course, is that this textbook is written in more detail than you actually need to get a good mark in the class. In truth, very few of my students actually read the textbook in great detail. So most people spend most of their time studying the lecture, making notes and studying the lectures, making notes from the lectures. In addition, you'll have to complete a vocabulary. The vocabulary is posted. The vocabulary assignment is posted on the website as well. The simplest way to learn the vocabulary is to read through the glossary at the end of the textbook. So you kind of look through the glossary. It's kind of like an index. It's in alphabetical order, so it's easy to find words. Right? So every week you're assigned a vocabulary to learn as well. Then come to class and we'll have a discussion, maybe a little compressed 10-15 minute lecture, not a 2-hour lecture like the whole thing is, but just a little bit of a lecture giving you a review of the material that you just learned and a preview of the material that you're about to learn. That's what the two little mini lectures will be in our Monday sessions. And then we jump into the testing. So you'll write a test that contains some questions about the new material as well as some questions about all previous material. So these tests are what they call cumulative. Cumulative meaning every new thing that you learn is fair game to be tested on. Whether you learned it on the first day or the last day of class, you could be tested on it as soon as you've been taught it. Okay, and then finally, you can attend my in-person office hours or my online office hours if you download the Teams program. And finally, the college employs a tutor who is there is a chemistry and physics tutor down on the ground floor in the learning center, and they have a schedule posted, so they are there to serve you, to help you with understanding things. So if you don't understand something, you're welcome to talk to me about it. And if you don't understand something, you're also welcome to talk to the tutor about it. The tutors are there to help you. So the tutors are on the ground floor in the learning center. That's if you come into Columbia College and you go way past the security guard desk and you go way past the elevators, you go way to the end of the hallway on the first floor and then turn right and then go down that hallway. You'll be at the Student Learning Center, which is full of resources that are there to help you learn. And there is a tutor there who will post the hours that the tutor will be available to help you will be posted in the Learning Center. So make sure if you want to try the tutor, take a look at that. Okay, now I have to give you an important note about the lab section of this course. This is standard policy for all laboratory courses at Columbia College, and all the other colleges and universities in British Columbia have a similar policy. And that policy is that the lab is worth, in this case, the lab is worth only 25% of your grade, but you must pass the lab and the lecture in order to pass the entire course. So if the lab is worth 25% of your grade, you have to get at least 12.5 out of 25 on the lab in order to pass the course. So the lab section of the course is worth 25% of your grade. The lecture section is worth 70% of the grade. Some students think, well, if the lab is only worth 25% of my grade, why should I really go to the lab? Why should I do the lab work? The labs are a lot of work, but in fact, it's important. And so that's why we make this rule that attending the labs is mandatory, meaning you have to do it. And we have some rules, some very fairly strict rules about passing the laboratory. So number one, you are expected to attend all of the lab sessions and do all the lab exercises, but if you miss 3 of the labs, you fail the entire course automatically. So you cannot miss 3 labs without failing the course entirely. Second, you have to get half of the material in the lab right in order to get a good mark in the course. Now, if you get less than 12.5% from the 25% of the lab material, if you get less than 25%, if you get less than a half of that, the maximum grade that you can get for the entire course is a D. A D is a passing grade, by the way, but it's a bare pass. It's a barely pass. So you will get if you fail the lab section of the course, the highest grade that you can get for the entire course is a D, provided that your mark for the entire course as a whole is more than 50%. Right? So in other words, if you fail the lab but you get 100% of the lecture correct, getting 100% of the lecture correct, that's 75%, that's a B plus. You can't get a B plus, right? You would only get a D at the most. On the other hand, if you fail the lab and you fail the lecture and your overall mark is 40% instead of 50, your overall percentage is 40% instead of 50, then you would fail the entire course anyway. So in order to pass the course, in order to get greater than a D, you have to at least pass the lab and then do very well in the lecture. If you get less than half the lab correct, you would get a D maximum. You would not get a D, you would get an F or a fail if your percentage for the entire course was less than 50%. Okay, so that's just a warning that the labs are very important. You're supposed to attend the lab. Here is how your marks are distributed for this course. The lab exercises in the lab are worth 10% of your mark at the end of the semester, usually in week 13. Usually in week 12 or 13, we have the lab exam where you write a test in the lab that is worth 15% of your mark. Together, the 10% for the exercises and the 15% for the lab exam constitute 25% of your mark. And then for the lecture section of the course, we have we're giving you 10 short answer quizzes, which are, I'm only going to count the highest 8. That's these here. 10 short answer questions. I'm only going to count the highest 8, the 8 of them. 10 multiple choice quizzes. I'm only going to count the highest 7 of them. And then in addition, in the lecture, we will have a midterm exam, usually in week 7. So in fact, I guarantee that it's in week 7 of the course. And we have a final exam in week 14 that's worth 40% of the course. Right? And we don't know the exact date. That is the exact date of the final exam is usually published by the college about halfway through the course. So sometime in week 7, we will know what the date for the final exam will be. Sorry, the handout that I gave you in class, there's a little bit of an error. I accidentally added a pre-midterm in there, which would make the whole course worth 105%, not 100. Sorry, that was a mistake. My apologies. It is actually, there's no pre-midterm in Biology 100 in this in the flipped section. All right, so that is your entire makeup for these labs and lectures. Okay, so about just to reiterate what the details are about the different types of labs, or about the different types of tests that we have in class. Each week, each Monday, you'll be given one short essay, short answer test, right? Where I ask you questions that can be answered with one or two words, or I ask you a question that can be answered with one or two paragraphs. So the first would be an example of a short answer question that you can answer in one or two words, and the second would be an example of a short essay question if you can answer it in one or two paragraphs, right? So I'll give you that, and then we'll take a certain amount of time to do it. And then when you're finished with that, you put your hand up, I take it away from you, and I give you the multiple choice quiz, which comes next. Right? And so the multiple choice quiz, you have answer A, B, C, D, right? So most people find multiple choice easier than short answer. Sometimes students ask, why don't you give us the two tests at the same time? And I'm deliberately giving you the short answer question first and the multiple choice question second, because the multiple choice questions contain correct answers that give you ideas about what the answers are for short answer questions, right? So the options, the answer options in a multiple choice test will give you clues about how to answer the questions in a short answer test. So the answer options in a multiple choice test can be used to give you clues about how to answer a short answer question. So that's why I give the short answer test first and then the multiple choice test second. Anyway, so we'll do 10 each of those, but we will only count the highest 8 and the highest 7 respectively. Okay, a little bit of final advice before we leave. First of all, please go to the Moodle webpage for the course and look around as soon as possible. Make sure you can get everything, get all the information. Second, watch some of the videos, the lecture videos, to see if you can understand, to see if you can turn on the transcript or the closed caption feature. Third, make sure you go to your lab period this week. Very important, and get acquainted with your lab instructor. The very first lab, by the way, is usually a lecture on an introduction to the lab and an introduction to lab safety, because the lab is actually kind of a dangerous, hazardous place. So the lab safety, you need to hear that. So make sure you go to the first lab period, regardless of what time it is during the week, what day it is during the week. And then after you've had a look around, you have the option of dropping this course by September 15th, which is the Monday of the second week. So what that means is that if you decide that you're not interested in this course, or you're not interested in this subject, or it seems like it'll be too much for you, you have the option of dropping the course by Monday, September 15th, the first day of week 2, and you'll get your money back. You'll get a refund. Now, actually, you have the option of withdrawing the course all the way until week 10. Withdrawing is not the same as dropping. So if you drop the course in the first week, it does not appear on your transcript. Your transcript is your academic record. So if you went to another college or another university, having gone to Columbia College first, they would have a record that you were a student at Columbia College, and they would ask to see your academic record from Columbia. Academic record is called your transcript. And so if you drop a course in the first week, it doesn't appear on your transcript. So as far as they're concerned, you never took this course or had anything to do with it. On the other hand, if you stay in the course after the second week and then you decide to withdraw from the course in week 10, uh, it a W will appear on your transcript. W meaning withdraw, meaning that you withdrew from the course, but it does not specify a reason why. So we all know that many people withdraw from courses because they're worried that they're going to fail the course. So if you're at Columbia and you're worried that you're going to fail a course before week 10, you have the option of withdrawing, and most people think it's better to have a W on your transcript than an F, and it is, because an F is used to calculate your grade point average, whereas a W is not. So the W on your transcript will not be used to calculate your average grade. Right. So it is better to withdraw from a course than to fail it. It's better to drop a course than it is to withdraw from it. So, but those are decisions that you make. Right. So you have the option of dropping the course and getting your money back between the first lecture, the first day of the second week, and the first day of the first week and the first day of the second week. You have the option of deciding whether or not you actually want to, whether or not you actually want to do this course. If you decide you want to do it, you have until week 10 to withdraw, and then if you don't withdraw in week 10, then you're in the course through the final exam, and you have to write the final exam and so forth. All right, so if you decide to stay in the course, I would give you a further piece of advice, which is to see if you can get a head start and start reading and listening to and making notes about as many of the lectures as you can, because you're not limited to, you don't have to wait a week, or you don't have to wait a few days for the next lecture. You can listen to them as soon as you want. You can listen to 13 lectures in the first week if you have enough time to do that. And the reason why that's handy is because you may have other courses where you don't have that option. You may have some other regular courses, and you know that with some of the other regular courses where you have to wait each week for a lecture, it seems like at the beginning you don't really have that much to do, and that's true because the course is just sort of getting started, and the course is sort of getting started and starting to move faster. At the beginning, it seems like you don't have a lot to do. So in that case, what you can do is you can throw yourself into studying for this course and get way ahead of the timetable, so that when we get to the end of the semester, when the other courses are building in momentum, you can sort of be slowing down for Biology 100. And so that would be my advice for anybody that's ever in a flipped classroom. Anybody that ever takes the flipped version of a course is to use the first few weeks to do a lot of studying in the flipped course, because you could really use the extra time when you get to the end of the semester with a regular course that is not flipped. All right, so you can post any questions you have for me in the questions forum on the web page, and otherwise I will see you in class. So good luck, and I hope you enjoy the course at least somewhat. I know some of you are just taking it as an elective. You're not really interested, but it would be nice if you learned something interesting anyway, even if you didn't intend to. I learned a lot. I was a student for a long time. I took a lot of courses that I didn't want to take necessarily, but I had to take a certain number of electives, and it was always a pleasant surprise if I learned something fun and interesting about a subject that I didn't think I was interested in until I actually took it. So anyway, I hope that happens to you, that you find something interesting about this course and that you learn something. So get in contact with me if you need any more advice, and I'll be happy to oblige. Otherwise, good luck.